Do vinyl records sound better than CDs? Well, I've done over 1,200 videos and this question comes up all the time. Hundreds of times. And today we're going to figure it out because it's complicated. There are a ton of variables, a lot of which I didn't understand for years. But the good news is you don't have to spend years researching or waste thousands of dollars trying to figure it out. You can just watch this video because I already did all of the work. Most people would say this is an impossible question to answer, but well, we're gonna tackle it anyway. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, or maybe a delicious cinnamon roll with artificial and natural flavors, or a delicious cinnamon apple pie, again with artificial and natural flavors. And let's talk about which sounds better, CDs or vinyl. But before that, please take 45 seconds to watch this. I'm helping Audio Advice raise money for a wonderful charity, and you have an opportunity to, well, make people's lives better and get a bunch of hi-fi stuff for free, kind of.
I'm Scott Noon. I'm the CEO of Audio Advice. My wife was diagnosed with breast cancer when she was 36 years old.
And I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man, and my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer this year. That's why I'm thrilled to be teaming up with Audio Advice to support this wonderful cause.
We're raising money for families with mothers battling cancer through the Helene Foundation. You'll see a link in the description that goes to a raffle page where we have tens of thousands of dollars of really cool headphones, speakers, projectors, you name it. And then Randy and I are going to do a live stream on October 30th where we're going to give it all away.
The sad reality is that we all know someone that has battled breast cancer. And this is your opportunity to make an impact on real people's lives. Whether you can give a little or a lot, you're going to make a difference. To understand the question, which sounds better, CDs or vinyl, well, we have to understand the formats. CDs came out in 1982. Digital perfection, or so we were told. They have a dynamic range of 96 dBs. Basically means they can be whisper quiet and they get super loud. Vinyl records, on the other hand, have been around since the 1940s. They have a dynamic range of between 50 to 70 decibels, depending upon the pressing. The difference is, I'm sure you know, but well, the CD is read by a laser beam, and the vinyl record by dragging a rock through little grooves in plastic or vinyl, which means manufacturing quirks with vinyl records can obviously affect the sound. Vinyl record wears out. Dust gets in it. It also affects the sound. CDs, well, they're like a perfect copy every time, but it doesn't mean they're better. Vinyl is more like beautiful hand calligraphy. It's got personality, like a wonderful artisanal caramel apple pie. There's going to be a point to the apple pie and the cinnamon roll. The problem with vinyl having a personality is that sometimes it can have multiple personalities. This is a cartridge. This is one of my favorite cartridges, the Nagaoka MP110. One of my other favorite cartridges is the Ortofon 2M Blue. Now, comparing those two cartridges is like comparing cinnamon rolls or a delicious caramel apple pie. Both of them include natural and artificial flavors. Now, the 2M Blue, clean, detailed, dynamic, almost sounds like, well, a CD or really good digital streaming music. The Nagaoka MP110, warm, voluptuous, caramelly even. It's way less detailed. Doesn't mean it's bad, it just means it's different. And that's the thing about cartridges. They have a huge impact on the sound of your record. And since one is not better than the other, well, they can be used in different situations. Because the Ortofon 2M Blue is so detailed, if you have a really terribly mastered record, you're gonna hear all of it. However, the Nagaoka MP110, bit of a magic maker. You're not going to get the detail, though, you would off of the 2M Blue. So, depending upon how the record sounds, how it was mastered, one may be better than the other. Now, why do they sound so different? Well, it all starts with a very, very weak electrical signal. That's what this little thing is producing. And since it is so weak and tiny, any changes, wires, magnets, anything, affects the sound. There's also a tiny little needle in there, a stylus, which also affects the sound. So every time you see a turntable with a different cartridge, it's going to sound different. And finding the right one for you and your music takes time, money, comparisons, patience, and alignment. We'll talk about that later. You would think it would be an easy win for the CD, right? Well, it's complicated. CD players. A lot of people think you take a CD player, you hook it up to your system, you turn on a CD, and voila. That's what CDs sound like. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Every CD, with the laser beams, reads digital music. Now, that digital music, well, some people say, hey, it's all the same, it's ones and zeros. Well, it's got to go through analog stuff to make it sound, and it needs to be converted from those digital ones and zeros to analog, and it needs a digital to analog converter. Problem is, well, they sound different. Now, some CD players have a digital output, which means you don't have to be held hostage by the internal digital to analog converter in the CD player. But if it doesn't have a digital output on the back, well, then you are being held hostage by your CD player. It's like the diner only serving cinnamon rolls and not having any caramel apple pie. I'm literally gonna dump this on a record. My fingers are sticky. So every DAC chip can sound different, and even the digital to analog conversion type can sound different. For example, some CD players, older ones, have multi-bit DAC chips. Other ones have cheap DAC chips, and they sound terrible. Some expensive CD players have what's called a ladder DAC or a resistor DAC, and those have a tendency to sound real nice, very analog-y. But as we'll find out, analog-y sounds very different. Lots of variables. Newer DAC chips in affordable CD players are generally Delta Sigma DAC chips, and they all sound pretty good, clean. Way better, though, than the affordable CD players in 1987. The point is that CD players can and do sound different depending upon what type of digital to analog converter is in it. And that's just the beginning, because there's even more variables. After the phono cartridge drags a rock through your vinyl record and puts out an extremely weak electrical signal, well, it needs some help, and that's where this comes in. It is a phono preamp. A lot of turntables have one built right in, and most of them are absolutely abysmal. A lot of receivers have a phono stage built right in, and most of those are abysmal. Now here's the thing. Not all phono preamps are created equal. This is the Project Tube Box S2, one of my favorites. It's $500, which is more expensive than most entry-level turntables. Why? Because it's worth it. Now, those phono preamps, pre-installed in some turntables, pre-installed on some receivers or integrated amps, they can cost like $5. Others are fully discrete, all tubed up like this one. The point is, there's phono stages that can cost $5,000. There's phono stages that can cost $50. And it's not just about boosting the signal. It's about noise floors. It's about RIAA curves. Bunch of settings for gain and other stuff. Because all these different cartridges, well, they have different requirements for their amplification needs. And because there are so many different types of phono preamps, some with tubes, some on chips, some hand-built, and some hi-fi cave somewhere, they're all different. Outside of the phono cartridge, the phono preamp has the biggest effect on what you are hearing, in my opinion. If your opinion differs, please put it in the comments. So if vinyl playback can vary so widely, depending upon what phono preamp you're using, what about CDs? Well, they don't get a free pass either. So you'd think that CDs would be pretty straightforward, right? Spin the CD, shine a laser on it. Bob's your uncle? No. There's stuff called jitter. The clock. The clock's actually a big deal. Now, what is jitter? I don't know. Some digital thing. No, it's basically What's coming off of the disc isn't what was on the disc. There's timing issues. Timing issues or clocking issues relate to spatial issues within the music itself. So things that are in space, soundstage, is not going to be cleanly defined if you're having jitter issues or clocking issues. They can smear the details, just like someone smeared this delicious natural and artificial flavor icing on top of this cinnamon roll. I promise there's a point to this. This is why some CD players sound better than others. This is also why some CD players are more expensive than others. Many people will argue how much a clock affects the actual sound, but no one will argue that, well, you need a clock. You may also hear the term CD transport. And what a transport is, well, it's a CD player without a DAC, or digital to analog converter. So you need an external DAC, digital to analog converter. A lot of them are more expensive than CD players. And a reasonable person would ask themselves, why is something that doesn't have a digital to analog converter more expensive than something that does have a digital to analog converter? Because like anything else as an audiophile, if they strip out features, well, then it's better. And they can charge more. Vibrations. They affect vinyl sound quality a lot. Remember, the little cartridge is, outputting a microscopic electronic signal. So anything affects the sound, especially a little bit of vibration. The tone arm needs to operate smoothly and not vibrate. The platter needs to not vibrate. Some turntables come with an acrylic or a glass platter. Knock on that, it doesn't ring. Some turntables come with an aluminum platter. Knock on that, sounds like a bell. And if your kid kicks a soccer ball and it hits your stereo rack and then bounces on the floor, not that that has ever happened in my house, well, it makes a big difference. Even the motor itself can cause vibrations and make a difference. Now, I don't think this one, vibration, has nearly as much effect on the sound as a phonostage or a cartridge, but it still does. And all of these little things can add up. But while your vinyl enjoyment can be affected by an errant soccer ball, CDs, well, they don't care if you tap your foot either, do they? Well, you'd think CDs would be immune to vibration, right? If the CD is even a millimeter outside of true, which means when this thing is spinning, these edges, even if they move just a tiny bit, it induces errors. And errors are the enemy of CD fidelity. When it wobbles, it causes issues. Maybe not as much as a soccer ball being kicked at 30 miles an hour into the side of your stereo rack, but it still affects the sound quality. Actually, if a soccer ball is kicked at 30 miles an hour and it hits your CD player, that's also going to affect sound quality. Soccer balls. The number one enemy of high fidelity. Now, this is such an issue that some companies actually, they kind of clamp the CD, mostly on really high-end CDs from Esoteric, but TEAC, also on some expensive CD players, they have a version of it, so it keeps the disc from wobbling all over the place. Keeps things horizontal and steady. Therefore, less errors. Therefore, better sound. Now, if that minute amount of wobble can affect the sound of a CD, you will not imagine what happens when you don't have perfect alignment on a cartridge when it comes to vinyl playback. Have you ever tried to change out a cartridge and have to align it? Well, it's a ton of fun, especially if you have great eyesight like I do. Maybe a little shaky hands. You're gonna get it right the first time, every time. I'm just kidding. It's a nightmare. Cartridge alignment is really what separates the patient, enthusiast, passionate vinyl heads from someone that just wants to drop the needle and listen to rumors without wanting to drop a cinder block on your turntable. Tracking force. Do you remember having to tape a quarter or a nickel to the top of your tone arm because the thing was skipping around so much? That's tracking force. You need a perfect amount to keep the needle in the groove. Too much and, it wears down the record because your You're dragging a rock through a piece of vinyl. And then you have anti-skate, which is exactly how it sounds. Keeps the needle from sliding across your record. Skating. And then you have azimuth, which I don't really know what that is. Actually, it's making sure that the stylus sits straight in the groove. So all of those variables are just when it comes to aligning a cartridge. And if you have one thing off, it affects how it sounds. Two things off affects how it sounds even more. Three, I think you get my point. Vinyl takes an obsessive amount of setup. CDs, on the other hand, handle all of this stuff automatically. Now, the most important thing when it comes to which sound better, CDs or vinyl, is the mastering. With vinyl, there's a ton of variability. First of all, that recording needs to be specifically mastered for vinyl because, well, if you have a giant amount of bass, it's going to take up a lot of real estate. Also, you have to cut a lacquer disc, and then you have to make mothers and fathers and stampas, and those stampers wear out, which means the first record pressed off of that stamper is going to sound different, albeit maybe not a lot, from the last record that was stamped from that stamper. You can make more, but eventually the lacquer disc wears out and you have to cut, well, another lacquer disc. And the whole process starts over. Any speck of dust that gets pressed into that vinyl record, it's going to sound different. After that vinyl record is pressed, and then you put it somewhere, if it ships too quickly and the vinyl record doesn't cure, you can get the waves, which affect how a record sounds. CDs, on the other hand, pretty consistent. Once the digital master is set, you pop it on here. But here's the problem. If it was mastered like garbage, it's going to sound like garbage. You ever listen to Death Magnetic? It's terrible. A great master can sound incredible on a CD. A great master can sound incredible on a vinyl record. And in my opinion, even though a vinyl record has less dynamic range, if it was mastered well, if your cartridge is lined up just perfectly, you have a good phono stage. To me, it sounds better. Could be all in my head though. Which finally, thank you for watching this long, finally brings me to the whole point of this video. So let's tie a bow on this whole thing. Vinyl is complicated. You have cartridge, you have alignment, you have the phono stage, you have the mastering, you have the pressing, vibration. A lot of things can go wrong. And that's why I love it. It's magical. Because every one of those things can affect the sound. CDs and transports, well, they have their own quirks too. I didn't even talk about power supplies. But a better power supply, a lower noise floor, can also affect the sound greatly. Digital to analog converters also affect the sound. Clocking, jitter, vibration, it all affects the sound. And at the end, both formats are at the mercy of what you feed it. A Walmart exclusive of AC/DC's Back in Black, it's terrible. Bad, real bad. It's not going to sound good whether or not you put a $1,000 moving coil cartridge on there, a $5,000 tone arm, or a $10,000 phono preamp. It's still the Walmart exclusive of AC/DC's Back in Black. Death Magnetic on CD, it's like fingernails on a chalkboard. Doesn't matter if you have a $20,000 esoteric CD player with an R2R fully discrete DAC inside and a monstrosity of a power supply. It's still Death Magnetic by Metallica. What you hear on either format is a complicated symphony of variables. Sometimes magical, sometimes underwhelming. But here's the good news. The sound's not always the important part. Because both of these formats cause us to slow down, to be more intentional, to engage with our music in a way that streaming just doesn't do. One of the big benefits of CDs was the ability to skip tracks. It's still harder to skip tracks on a CD than it is on streaming though. Also, you know, albums. And if you think it's hard to change a track on a CD, change one on a vinyl record. There's something about the ritual of taking a CD out of the case, walking across the room, pressing eject, putting it in, pressing not eject, having it pulled in, and then pressing play. It's wonderful. And if you want even more wonderment, Put on a vinyl record. You got to pull it out. You got to put it down. You got to turn it on. Take your little brushy brush out. Do that. Maybe even clean it in some type of record cleaning machine before. Get the tone arm, bring it over, pull the lever down, let it go down. Hear the little sparkle? And then the music starts. The whole thing is preparation to enjoy the music, even if it's subconsciously. It turns listening into an event. It gives reverence to the music. There's friction. For me, if I'm listening for pleasure, always on vinyl. Well, I guess CDs too, but mostly on vinyl. I love it. I love it for its imperfections. I love it for its high maintenance setup. I love it for the friction. I love it for the tangibility. And the effort puts me into the right mindset to enjoy my music, even if it's subconsciously. CDs are a close second. The good news is both vinyl setups and CDs have an upgrade path. You can get a better DAC. Now granted, you need a digital output to get a better DAC, but you can get a better DAC. Turntables, you can get a better cartridge. You can get a better phono stage. And when I say better, I don't mean one is sonically better. I mean one is more to your taste. So I don't think the right question is which one sounds better. The right question is which one do you think you will enjoy more, listen to more. Both formats will pull you closer to your music, especially if it's Will Smith's Big Willie style on compact disc. This is where the real magic is at, my friends. Vinyl, way more expensive, way more variables. But in my opinion, it's worth it. Because every time I drop the needle and it actually sounds great, I chuckle to myself. Because on paper, there is no way that this should sound good. There's too many variables. It's a format that literally degrades every time you play it. And it degrades your cartridge, or at least the stylus. It's a consumable, but that's why I love it. Because it shouldn't sound good, but it does. At the end of the day, told you I was coming back to the cinnamon rolls. At the end of the day, some people like cinnamon rolls. Some cinnamon rolls are better than others. Some people love caramel apple pie. The great news is neither one of them is wrong. Cinnamon roll, apple pie, they're both delicious. Vinyl, CDs, both wonderful. And the good news is you can binge listen to vinyl or CDs, and neither one of them will give you type 2 diabetes. And that's something we should all think about. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please tell me which one you enjoy, CDs or vinyl. What variables have you changed to enjoy them even more? Please check out the Helene Foundation. It's a great charity. You can make an impact on people's lives today, and you get a chance to get a whole bunch of awesome hi-fi stuff. If you like this video and you learned something, give it a thumbs up, maybe subscribe. I'm going to put a video up here about why vinyl records are so expensive, and another one here about why you should be collecting CDs in 2025, and not for the reason why you think you should. Thanks for watching.